So we're having an FJ chat here with Lisa Miles-Heal, who's CTO of Unleashed Software. Lisa, thanks for joining us so reluctantly on this lovely Takapuna day.
In paradise.
In paradise, sitting in paradise in Takapuna. Yes. So tell me a little bit about Unleashed.
So Unleashed is a SaaS software solution. So in the cloud, we always say, everyone seems to have heard of Xero. It's like, like Xero, but just a few years before Xero. And we provide solutions for businesses to manage their inventory. So you could be a medium-sized manufacturer of goods or products. They could be perishable goods, they could be high-tech goods, they could be retail goods, and you've got a lot of stuff sitting on some shelves somewhere, and you need to keep track of that. And in the old days, maybe still now around the place, you might have spreadsheets. You might even have, some of our customers still have like big books where they keep track of stock, ledgers coming and going, but often spreadsheets. And so when you think about what the cloud offers, it's taking all of that data, it's taking all that information. It's quite important to your business, stock you've got on hand, stock you need to have on hand, whether it's expiring, what its serial numbers are, if it's going to be assembled together, and it's keeping track of that for you. And it's because of the cloud making it available in real time anywhere. So whether you're at home, whether you're at the batch, whether you're running your business and you're on the road talking with suppliers or customers, you can access it. You know what you've got, and putting power into that data so that you can use that to run your business better. So that's kind of
Xero is making accounting beautiful. You're making inventory sexy.
So we say handsome. So we don't say beautiful accounting software. So we say handsome inventory management software, because most of our customer group, we'd probably say, would be male. Most of them would be in warehouses and in businesses where the handling of that stock. So managing it's one thing, but quite close to managing is also handling it and getting it in, getting it out. And so our solution is helping businesses.
So was it ever enterprise, or was it designed straight for the cloud straight away?
No, it's straight for the cloud straight away. Never had an enterprise version. We don't. We have one software stream, one code stream, one version of our product. What we do a little bit of though is, as our product advances, we attach pricing plans to it that come out every so often, where we believe we've invested extra capital in the product and it's moving along. And we say for new customers coming on board, then this is the price that you need to pay. And for some of our existing customers who don't want to pay that price and they don't want to get those new features, we don't ever force a price increase on them. We don't force them to upgrade. They can stay on the version they're on with various features not available to them, configured off as you will. And then we make hopefully generous and attractive offers for them to upgrade into the new versions, and we stay on that one code stream all the time.
So scaling that as a global business from New Zealand, tell me about the challenges that means for you.
It's always an interesting one, isn't it? You want to get bigger, and you want to get enough of the basics right that mean you can scale, but you also don't want to get it so right just within a local context that you miss all those opportunities to be first to market. And in the States, in the UK, we've got a big market in Australia, and I think we'd probably say New Zealand and Australia, even though we're a New Zealand company, New Zealand and Australia is our kind of home-based market. We have an office in Melbourne, we have an office here in Auckland. We, a year ago, set up office in San Francisco, and that's been really successful.
Stuff,
yeah, absolutely. A lot of sales folk up there, sales and marketing. There's no, all our software development is still done in Auckland, not even in Australia. And what we know from, this is one of the great things about cloud software, is we've got customers in over 80 countries. We've got 16% of our customer base up in the UK. We don't even have a presence in the UK. We don't have an office in the UK. Now, we work with partners, which does help to a certain degree, but I've never met any of those partners up in the UK. But they're under these new business models that we're all working with now with the cloud. Your product needs to work, and it needs to do well, because we all know people can sign up quick and they can sign down or out quick. So you're kind of every week, month to month, you're living on the edge of making sure your product's still adding value, because if it's not, you won't have that customer next month.
So
it's
not like the old days of enterprise where they next anniversary they dropped off.
So now we've got this big lump and we deal with it. But I think that keeps you really honest too. And so when you say about the challenges, we've got this real honest, pragmatic, focused culture that I think comes out of New Zealand. I mean, I know it's bad to generalise, and we've certainly got a diverse cultural range in our office, so you can't say there's a Kiwi office. But as a way of doing things that we kind of are. It's kind of baked into the way we are. I suppose one of the challenges is when you've got teams working in other offices outside of the mothership, so to speak, is helping to translate those values and the way that we work into those other teams. And especially when they're selling your product and they're right up front, they're kind of out their shop window, you've got to figure out how to make sure that they're tuned and hooked in with the way you are.
The way that you're working. So,
Yeah.
so I know one of the areas that you're passionate about is women in technology and having more women in technology. Tell me a bit about that.
Well, I suppose, when you are a woman in technology,
Check.
yeah, I am. I suppose I think we're a privileged bunch. First of all, I'd just like to say anyone working in technology in my mind is a privileged bunch. We have a career path that's unlikely to ever result in us coming home one day and saying, oh, there's no job for me, there's no future. There's no future, I've got to suddenly change tack. So we're in a privileged position because we've managed to get on a track for something that's going to be future-proof for us. No 2 days are the same. It's constantly changing, constantly evolving. I used to think I was smart once. I used to think I knew a thing or two. Every day I'm reminded about what I don't know, which is great. There's always stuff to learn, and it makes for difference. But what it also means is there's great opportunity. And I often describe IT as a sort of a meritocracy. It's not about where you went to school, who you knew, who your parents knew, what degree you got, though education's important, don't get me wrong. And so it's one of those things that I think for women who, either because they want to have a family and a career at the same time, or because they've got other commitments that they consider just as equally important as work, but they're smart and they're good at what they do and they don't want to be held back by people's preconceived ideas about what value they can add, IT is great for them. So we're in a privileged place. I want to make it available to more women, just as I want more people to work in IT generally, but I want more women and young girls to understand a bit more about what IT is and the range of roles there are in IT, because I think part of the problem and the reason we have an increasing number, slowly but still a really disproportionate number of men to women in IT is because women just don't know what goes on in IT. So there's a preconceived idea. They think it's techie.
Coke, pizza and dark rooms as opposed to the
PlayStation
interface.
10, we call it. And that's just not how it is anymore. And so I think that it's something to do with creating great teams. So diversity, both ethnically and gender-based diversity, is really important when you're making products for customers because, as I heard earlier today, we can't say that, there are some products you can say are very, very male-dominated or female-dominated, but generally, it's a 50-50 split. The users and consumers of your product are going to be female and male, and we need to make sure as we build those products, we've got good gender representation in the mix. But also, when we think about the success and the future that IT is going to bring us as a nation, so I've got a bit of a passion that New Zealand punches above its weight. And I've worked offshore, and I used to be really scared about how will some kid from New Zealand compete globally, and New Zealanders do so well. We do so well. So I want more people to have that success. I want more people for, brand New Zealand as well as brand female as well as brand IT. To me, there's just so much opportunity here.
So does that mean taking some of that technology speak down to high school level or even earlier to make sure that the awareness is there?
Yeah, I think high school is a great place for it, and it needs to start being vocationally based, vocation and educationally based, because kids are making decisions about their future. And I do a bit of speaking in high schools, and I often say to the kids, if you're going to leave here and spend 2 or 3 years getting trained in something, you want to be sure you're going to have a job at the end of it, don't you? Put your hand up. And I find high school kids, I'll often ask them at the start, a group of 200 or 300, how many of you know a lawyer? Sadly, in some parts of the country, people know lawyers quite intimately. How many people of you know a doctor? Most kids know what a doctor is. They know what a lawyer is. They know what an airplane pilot is, even if they've never met one. How many people of you know what an IT person is? And a couple of people will have an idea, but a lot of them, by and large, don't. So it's kind of this invisible, silent thing that goes on, and yet IT is so pervasive in their life. So when you start unpicking that and saying, "Oh, okay," so when you're on Instagram or you're on Snapchat and you're talking, so who do you think writes it? Who do you think makes sure that that's secure? Who do you think, even the phone that you do? And then they start, yeah, and they understand that.
But don't you think some of the heroes have changed now? their heroes are the guys who either quit university and sit in the garage and cut code or do something and make an app. So their move from pauper to millionaire overnight is a totally different sort of mindset to some of the things maybe in my career where you went through certain
hard
steps,
work and
blah blah blah.
And I think IT and that sort of meritocracy approach is great for that. So if you're smart, you've got a great idea and you work hard at it, you can be really, really successful. But I actually make a really strong point when I talk to kids that that's the 1 in a million or the 1 in 10,000. It's, for every one of those great stories you hear, there are all the rest who didn't make it. So don't be don't suddenly, child in a candy store, oh, that's what it's all going to be like, because it does still actually take some hard work. It does take some education. And there will be some people who are so gifted and talented, they'll build something in their garage and it'll sell on, iTunes, and it'll be the next Angry Birds, or that's probably so outdated now, I shouldn't even use that phrase, but it'll be the next something.
Yeah.
But also to say to kids, it's not actually all about that. It can be, but it's not all about that. But what I love about IT is you can work for others, or you can start up your own place as well. You can do your own thing, you can be entrepreneurial, or you can go and work for other people and be part of something bigger. Or as I joked in one school in West Auckland earlier in the year, you can be only ever dressed from the waist up and have an entire career of basically being on Skype and instant messaging and delivering your work product to your team that's based somewhere else, and they don't actually know that you're wearing your pajama pants the whole day.
Well, we're in Takapuna, I've got shorts on,
I dressed up for you today.
Absolutely.
I put shoes on actually, so yeah.
I love the passion. I love the passion you bring, but also the range of tools you're prepared to put to it and putting back in terms of trying to show these kids and anyone who will listen just an opportunity that you can see, because I think you're right. I think it's the bedrock of saying if we can do this well, then New Zealand's got a totally different future that's not based on flogging off some milk and powder. It's actually about some technology improvement.
Yeah, I agree. And what I do see is that there are kids who I think could make it in IT because they've got great problem-solving skills, because they've got tenacity, because they've got creativity, because they might be good enough at maths to understand logic. But take myself. I don't write code. I've never written a line of code, and I've had a pathway in IT and a great career in IT, and I'm privileged. And it started out probably in business analysis because I was the young person who wanted to understand why things worked that way, and maybe I was the nosy one, and then maybe I was the bossy one, and then I got into project management, and then maybe I was the one who broke everything down into small bits and said, well, if I'm going to get the job done, I want to be rewarded every time I achieve something, which I suppose is the essence of project management. And thankfully these days it's pretty handy too, as we do more and more agile delivery or lean delivery, or really IT leads the way in some of these kind of practices which apply to general business, which is you don't work for 10 months on something and then deliver it and hope like how someone will buy it or it works. You break everything down into small short cycles, and you deliver, and then you reflect and you think, what could I do differently next time, and then you work on that, and then you keep going. And those kinds of things, they didn't come to me because I was the geekiest person in the class, though it's all relative. Some people might say I was a closet geek. They don't come to me because I'm the best mathematician, but they come because of these generic skills. And when I go out and speak in schools all over the place, it's not a privileged upbringing or a highly educated upbringing that means you do great in IT. And you can even spot the kids in the crowd by the questions they ask.
Yeah.
And you just think, oh gosh, if only we could get them into the right place. And so you asked at the start, is it college or is it earlier? I mean, I have a daughter going through intermediate, just leaving intermediate now, and I met last week with some people who are involved in the curriculum development in the North Shore, and there's this thought, rightly or wrongly, that it's kind of like IT needs to be something that kids think they've got to go off to university and so let's not start too soon, because those kids with that kind of brain that are going to go off to university at intermediate, it's almost like I'm not saying they're scared, but it's a long way ahead for them. There's many years of education ahead for them. So in intermediate, we don't really want to bog them down with all of that stuff. And we want to let them think IT is fun and creative, and it's all about the iPhone and the touch screen and all the rest of it. And I sat there listening to it, and I was going, you kind of are. Yeah, exactly. You kind of are and you kind of aren't. Kids get technology. Intermediate kids, they use it, they get it every day. they don't necessarily understand it a great deal at all, and they probably don't see a place for themselves in it. But I don't think you should dumb it down for them. I mean, we talk about digital technologies, I think, in the intermediate curriculum, and I'm not an educator, so I'm going to leave that up to people who know a lot more than me. But I think that what we should start doing at intermediate age and then through into secondary is showing people that the range of vocational sort of career pathways there are in IT. Start letting them have an understanding of what kinds of roles you could be doing. It's not just technical. It could be project management, it could be testing, it could be business analysis, it could be infrastructure and hardware for all those kids who are down in the robotics class. All kinds of, it could even be sales, because you could be the kind of person who loves technology so much all you want to do is get people using it. You could be a trainer, you could be, there's so many pathways in IT, and I sometimes think to myself, am I just smoking my socks? And actually every career path has that much diversity, and I'm just biased. But I don't know, because I considered doing marketing. That was my sort of first career pathway. And I think in marketing, you kind of do marketing. You do marketing, you might do PR, you might do advertising, you might do events, but you kind of, I don't know if it's as broad as IT.
It's so broad, and it does have, I think, a positioning problem, and it's certainly...
brand IT definitely has a problem.
Yeah, brand IT has a problem, because you mention IT and you go back to geeks and pizzas and things, instead of thinking about the interface. And we're doing some work around CX and customer experience, and that is extraordinary as a field. Guess who all the lead people in those? They're designers, and there's a lot of women in there. But they actually get interface, they get usability.
Yep.
Whereas some guys are still stuck under the hood without realising that they've got to get it.
Yeah.
Hey, look, thanks so much for your time and for your
worries.
enthusiasm.
No worries, thanks for my juice.
Okay, wonderful.
I'll come talk to you anytime if you buy me one of these great juices.
From?
Oh, it says Master Milkshakes. That is not the place. But it's from our friends at Combi Coffee in
Combi Coffee, whose bar is an actual combi van.
It is an actual combi van, yes.
Cool.
They're very good.
Superb.